The hummingbird and the crane were both in love with the pretty woman. She preferred the hummingbird, who was as handsome as the crane was awkward. So the crane was awkward and the hummingbird was handsome. But the crane was so persistent that in order to get rid of him, she finally told him he must challenge the other to a race and she would marry the winner. The hummingbird was so swift, almost like a flash of lightning, and the crane so slow and heavy that she felt sure the hummingbird would win. She did not know the crane could fly all night. They agreed to start from her house. Anyways, if you can fly across, whoever wins this race, right, is going to win her. So because the crane can fly all night, eventually it overtakes the hummingbird, who can only do short bursts. Hummingbird's good at sprinting, but a marathon, a crane could win. Right? So the crane finished his breakfast, started on, and then the fifth, sixth day, blah blah blah. So he took his time with his breakfast, fixed himself as nicely as he could up at the creek, and came in at the starting place where the woman lived early in the morning. When the hummingbird arrived in the afternoon, he found out he had lost the race, but the woman declared that she would never have such an ugly fellow as the crane for a husband, so she stayed single. The Ponca. This is another Native American tribe that is in Kentucky. It's a Midwestern Native American tribe of the Dehegan branch of the Siouan language group. The two federally recognized Ponca tribes, the Ponca tribe of Nebraska and the Ponca tribe of Indians of Oklahoma. Oklahoma, which means the red people. So I don't know if you're going to change the Redskins. You probably should change the name of Oklahoma, right? Since the whole state is the red people. But let's see, the meaning of the name is cutthroat. So there's a Ponca tribe that was in Kentucky. The Poncas mean cutthroat. So the Ponca, I think they were working under the Pawnee. There's Brenton Greenwood. He's the face of the Ponca today, contemporary Ponca artist. I just want to find out about the Native Americans that are in Kentucky. So I found out that the Ponca are there, but none of this information points out what kind of. It only gives me an indication of what kind of Native Americans are here. The Yamacraw, they lived on the Green River. They're a Native American group settled parts of Georgia, specifically around the future site of the city of Savannah. The Yamacraw tribe was formed in the late 1720s under the leadership of Tomochichi from some bands of Yamansi and Lower Creek people who had disagreed with the severing of friendship with the British during the Yamansi War. Creeks cannot account for anyone by the name of Yamacraw, and the R which appears in the name is not recognized in either the Muskogee or Yuchi dialects. So Yamacraw, is that what they're trying to say? The Creeks cannot account for it. It's freaking fascinating. Yeah, so the Yamacraw, maybe they're saying it would be Yamanci, Yamacraw, I don't know. There's a Yamacraw, Kentucky, but I heard it was named after the Yamacraw that was here, but I've also heard that it was named after some big fucking company established it. It's a coal town in McCreary County. It's also known as the Big South Fork. Post office closed in 1950. So right there, it's southern Kentucky. So the Green River gets close to that, but not really. It's all by the Cumberland River. Is that the Cumberland River? I thought that was the Cumberland. What the fuck? I'm gonna find out where the Cumberland River is. Because I think the Cumberland River is mostly Tennessee. But the Cumberland River used to be called the Shawnee River. So you want to talk about Shawnee people. It says Kentucky, Tennessee. All right. Paducah. All right. No, I don't know if I would say most of it is it. It only seems like half of it because actually the Cumberland River is really entrenched in southeastern Kentucky. And then it actually comes up from right here too. So okay, then I guess where I was thinking this area here, because the Green River, goes through here, so that gives like there's a little pocket right there. I would, that could have been a state. Or Kentucky could have followed, the Cumberland River. But instead it's like, let's just make a straight line all the way across. Except for like one guy's farm. The Yamacraw, they spoke some sort of Creek, but they can't recognize the R. Mozopolia, they also were known as the Ofo. So, like, you mofo? No, I'm Ofo. Just O-F-O. Ofo. Mozopelia. 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 Mosopelia. 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 So the Seminole people, Creek. The southern part of the Daniel Boone National Forest at a point south of Stearns, Kentucky, where Kentucky 92 crosses the Cumberland River, is located as a community named Yamacraw. The local history reports that this name is applied to that area because of a small tribe of Indians who settled along the banks of the Cumberland River, aka Shawnee River, in that vicinity shortly after signing the Treaty of Sycamore Shoals, March 14th, 1775, which is a huge milestone. It was a huge day. So we have at least one report where it says that on the signing of the Sycamore Shoals, I think that would have been between Daniel Boone or Virginia or the Cherokee or something. I think that's Sycamore Shoals was the Richard Henderson, Daniel Boone, Dragon Canoe, and all the Cherokee natives signing, their land over. And so actually the signing of that deal led to the creation of Kentucky. Because once they saw that some private guy almost nearly got all that fucking shit, they immediately declared his fucking land claim. That's illegal. The fucking Virginia government did. Because the government just does the fuck as they please. And then they made a county out of it, and then it became its own state. So, these Indians are apparently a part of the Yamacraw tribe of the South Carolina, noted for their skills in agriculture. So that's interesting. I guess the Yamacraw did come from the Savannah, right? We read that. And then there was one that had broke off, and they went and lived in Kentucky. So one of their squaws, Mary Musgrove, was probably one of the first county agents when she hired Glathorpe Colony botanist to train a French botanist to grow corn in the Indian manner at a salary equivalent to $400 per year in gold. Yields of corn in excess of 300 bushels per acre were not uncommon in the agricultural practice of this tribe. Such historical information as is now available indicates that this small band of Indians had left the Yamacraw tribe in South Carolina and moved initially to Old Fort Loudon in what is now southwestern or northwestern Tennessee. Sometime prior to the French and Indian War, living in the vicinity of Fort Loudon, they raised corn and hogs for sale to that garrison. Shortly after signing the Treaty of Sycamore Shoals, a small band of Indians moved from the Fort Loudon vicinity to the area along the Mississippi River, which now bears its name. It appears the Indians they must educate the Cumberland River Indians and tribes of the Cumberland Plateau to their advanced agricultural methods. So that's amazing. You have all this information about the Yamacraws, but we're going to read later on. It's like, wait a second, there was no tribe. It was a company that established the town. Then why do we have all this information here, right? Appears the Indians did much to educate the Cumberland River. So not only were we made up a tribe, but we said that the Yamacraw was the smartest tribe on the Cumberland River, and they all learned from the great geniuses that were the natives. And who's this woman here, right? I mean, the Glathorpe colony, they hired Mary Musgrove, and supposedly she's a Yamacraw or something. Little is known of the fate of this band of Indians, apparently being of a peaceful nature, moved to remote areas. There's only a few towns in Kentucky that are named after Native Americans. Paducah, Paducah, and then there's Clay, and then there's a couple of them in Breathitt County. Shawneetown or something. I don't know, but there's a couple more, but it's only like a handful. But I like them. I think they're my favorite cities whenever I find one of them that was named after them. Paducah. It's a kind of a dumb story. I think it's old Chief Paducah. They convinced him to move out of his homeland, and then he wandered around and died. Didn't become much. But they did name the town after him. So, there's that. So who were the Yamacraws? My understanding, anyone please correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll publish that correction, but it is my understanding that most all Indian tribes lived in one small region, yet had a vast range of lands nearby that they consider their hunting grounds. It's often shared by more than one tribe. They consider the animals on the hunting ground their herds, like we consider our cattle, hogs, chickens, sheep, and goats to be ours. I don't like these comparisons. This guy seems like a fucking Eurocentrist, fucking smart guy. They're rangers of the wildlife found in their hunting grounds. It is rare for anyone to live in these hunting grounds, and most instantly fall hard for bands to several tribes passing through them. You wouldn't want your wife and children exposed to the danger. A dozen or so warriors passing through might bring them, but I heard that there's 1-2 exceptions. Why are you saying all this, man? Yamacraw, they were in the Savannah area, first led by Tomochichi. And then they do leave. The Georgia, and before the Yamacraw's formation, the Creeks and the Yamansis dominated the region now known as the state of Georgia. Both nations came under economic influence of British traders based out of Charleston, South Carolina. As the Indians slid further into debt, the British required immediate payment in the forms of deerskin and or Indian slaves. The fucking English, man. The English fucking Protestants. Oh, well, since you don't have no money, well, we need some deer skin, or you could just be our slave. Which one is it? Well, I don't want to pay you. Sons of bitches. When hostilities ended 2 years later, the Creeks, led by Brims, were quick to reestablish trade with the British, which offended their Yamansi allies, who instead linked with the Spanish out of St. Augustine in present-day Florida. Indians who disagreed with these alliances broke away from their brethren in 1728 and formed the Yamacraws under Tomochichi's leadership. They relocated to the bluffs overlooking the Savannah River, choosing a site for its vacancy, its proximity to British traders, and its spiritual significance as the resting place of Tomochichi's ancestors. Here they created a new town and prospered quietly until more British settlers, led by James Edward Oglethorpe, arrived in February 1733. I'm just reading, man. I think this is where I found out the guy says that instead. No. Okay, here it says that the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company established this coal town. They established a coal town, so the white people were established there. They named it the Yamacraw. They're the ones that named the thing, or was it named beforehand? Because it says the name is that of a tribe of Creek Indians who lived in the area where Savannah, Georgia was later established. So it does make me question it. It talks about proof. Now there's a lot of more about the Yamacraw. Not really. We haven't learned much. He's seeing the same sources that I've seen, but it's not necessary to cover here. What happened to the Yamacraw, nobody knows. Maybe they assimilated. I don't know. In the case of the Yamacraw, the simplest explanation would be that these Yamacraw Indians were folded back into the Creek Muskogee Nation from which they had originally separated. This is an example of hours of research that didn't help me get any closer to my ancestors, but I did learn from it. C'est la vie. So he is sitting there saying that the Yamacraw Indians were on the Savannah River. They broke off from the Muskogee Creek. No, we're not going to be the Muskogee Creek no more. We're fucking Yamacraws. And then the Yamacraws goes up to the Cumberland River, establish their own shit. Everybody's learning from them. And then they just died out, diseased. They got killed. Or he's saying the simplest Occam's razor theory is that the Yamacraw went back into the Muskogee Creek after they had, they said, fuck you guys, we're doing our own thing. And then they came over, by the English, and they was like, hey, can you get out of our, yeah, okay, fine. And then they go, so theoretically, to Kentucky, or they got assimilated back into the larger group. I don't see why that's the simplest explanation. When you break off from a group, I mean, it doesn't, man, we were just joking. Can we come back? I think they would still be speaking maybe Creek. I heard Yamacraw, there is no R in the Creek language. Yamacraw, I don't know. I'm more fascinated by the Yamacraw and actually no closer to any truth because of this fucking asshole. Just because the mining town was established, that could just been the white people coming in, just more jobs, so more white people, and therefore the towns was established, or the name did come from the tribe that had been there during the signing of the Treaty of Sycamore Shoals. The Yamacraw, your mama called. So the Ofo, the Wyandots, which I think is Red Stockings, Chief Red Stockings. All the counties of Kentucky. The Chiska, I thought it was the Chispa, extinct as a tribe. The Chiska were the ones that Hernando de Soto ran into. They were encountered by both Hernando de Soto expedition in 1542. So the Chiska is the Yuchi, or are they the Yamacraw? So the Yuchi, Native Americans lived on the Green River. They came out of eastern Kentucky. So they're different than the Yamacraw. That was a joke. The Yamacraw and Ponca were just Native Americans in Kentucky in general. And so I was actually this is the Green River Native Americans, right? So I'm not for sure if Yamacraw or Poncas were ever in the Green River. They might have been like, hey, the Green River, what's up? But the Chiska were the Yuchi. The Chiska were the Yuchi, tribe of Native Americans living in eastern Tennessee, southwestern Virginia, 16th century. They were merged with the Shawnee and went extinct as a tribe during the 18th century. So that's interesting. Did the Yuchi, because the Yuchi were known as some fucking badass motherfuckers, and so were the Shawnee. Like, they were just fucking psycho warriors that just other Native Americans couldn't subdue, and they just were like, killers. They're fucking straight up fucking murderers. Just, they had a reputation for being terrifying. And even Hernando de Soto sent a fucking, convoy up there, and then he was like, all right, we don't want to die. So in 1542, Hernando de Soto didn't sail the ocean blue. He just kind of crossed from Cuba to Florida, and then marched on and give everybody diseases, killing everybody, stealing their horses, raping their women, looking for gold or the fountain of youth or something, and then winds up dying. And they said they buried him in the Mississippi River because he was a god, right? He was the sun god, and then they put him in the Mississippi River. So Hernando de Soto, who also come out of fucking Pizarro, who wiped out the Incan Empire, and then the Native American genocide of North America was actually fucking worse than in South America. So, 1542, Hernando de Soto runs into the Yuchi. Captain Juan Pardo does so in 1568. So, 16 years later. De Soto sent out a small exploration party in the vicinity of the upper Tennessee River, who were attacked and defeated by the Chicka warriors. The experience convinced De Soto to limit explorations in Chicka territory. Fuck that. We ain't gonna send no more men up there. Shit. Those damn Utes killed all my fucking men. They can have that land. They said that they're related to the Shawnee, which totally makes sense to me. But they're different. I mean, Captain Pardo also sent exploration parties that followed the Chicka. Pardo called them Chicka. His chronicler called them Yuchi. His men destroyed their settlement at Manatee, thought to be present-day Saltville, Virginia. The name Siska seldom appeared in Spanish colonial records after the 16th century. In 1683, the French explorer La Salle found a Chicka village between the Cumberland and Tennessee rivers in Yuchi territory, now northern Tennessee. He persuaded them in the Shawnee north of the Cumberland to relocate to Fort St. Louis in Illinois. Live under French protection around this time. Their Chicka seemed to have joined with the Shawnee under the name Cheskepi. They followed the Shawnee's later migrations through Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, finally Ohio. La Salle reported that the Chicka had originally lived in the Appalachians east of where he found them, until their town was burnt down by colonists from Florida. He mistakenly called those people English. They were Spanish. The Chicka appeared to have been extinct as a tribe by the 18th century. The Spanish burned down the fucking tribe. He saw the fucking Yuchi. La Salle didn't see actually many Native Americans, but where were they at in the Appalachians? Because, I mean, I'm thinking that they're farther out, right? The fucking Yamacraw, they're in Savannah, Georgia, but these were in southwestern Tennessee, eastern Tennessee. So, I don't know. They say that it's the Chicka are extinct as a tribe, so there's no more Yuchi. The Yuchi are dead and gone. And that sucks, because if they were like the best fucking warriors around, what the fuck happened to them? It also says down here that they migrated, followed Shawnee's later migrations. So the Yuchi was also the Shawnee. We also have Cherokee, and these are all Green River Native Americans. So they said that they had a town. So there was a Yuchi town in the Appalachian Mountains. His men destroyed their settlement, they said, in Saltville, Virginia. Maniatique. So we see, Juan Pardo and Hernando de Soto both saw the Yuchi, and the Yuchi they big time, they fucking big time. They lived as far north as the Green River, all these other places. And the chroniclers of De Soto mentioned the Yuchi under the name Siska at one or more points in Tennessee. 1567, Boyano, an officer under Juan Pardo, had two desperate encounters with the Indians somewhere in the highlands of Tennessee or North Carolina. According to his story, destroyed great numbers of them. So he killed lots of them. Two white men sent from Virginia by Abraham Wood visited a Yuchi town on the headstream of the Tennessee. English explorer settlers in South Carolina told of a warlike tribe called Westo, probably a division of the Yuchi. So the Westos are the Yuchi. So that's a little bit about the Yuchi there. The mysterious Yuchi of Tennessee and Southeast. They're not well. The Toy Soyaha. Is that who the Yuchi are supposed to be? They're not well represented in the history books. This is for several reasons. First, the Yuchi were a large and powerful tribe. According to the reports of the DeSoto expedition, evidence indicates that disease epidemics ravaged the Yuchi under the Spanishmen visited the East Tennessee area. The Yuchi were known to have widely scattered villages that ranged from Florida to Illinois and from the Carolina coast to the Mississippi River. Legend has it that the tribe split in half over politics, and the fate of remaining half is not known. This actually seems to have happened several times in the past. Portions of the tribe were absorbed into the Shawnee, Lenape, Cherokee, and Creek peoples, as well as into the dominant culture. We do know, though, that for the at least 6 to 8 centuries, much of what is now Tennessee is occupied by a tribe. So the Yuchi, right? You know, they're fucking Yuchi. They're a staunchly proud traditional people. This alone has kept them from complete assimilation by the Creek or the dominant culture. They are very distinct people derived from their insistence on their direct descent from the sun. The Yuchi are the children of the sun. They're the sun fucking people, right? You hear fucking Hernando de Soto saying that shit. No, we were the root people. You just got here, De Soto. You just got here, what, fucking 5 days ago? How are you going to sit there and say you the fucking sun god? You can't just march in my fucking town and say you the sun god. As the traditionalists, the Yuchi became the epitome of the wild Indian, enemies of the writers of history. Dragon Canoe was an Anakutane Cherokee / Yuchi warrior that led a resistance. Dragon Canoe's a badass. If that's fucking true, that's a badass fucking connection. Dragon Canoe's a fucking Yuchi. It's almost like a connection like the Know Nothing fucking party killing Edgar Allan Poe. You know what I'm talking about. So therefore, like the Creek Nation, the Yuchi were allotted much less treatment by history and the federal government than the more dominant culture-friendly Cherokee. The Yuchi are very staunchly proud and traditional people, and this alone has kept them from complete assimilation. Right, we just went through that. So they are proud. They're the fucking children of the corn. They're the children of the sun. They're the fucking children of the roots and the wings. And they're going to get us to our promised land. The Yuchian language has never been classified and bears little resemblance to any of the known tongues of the Americas. So just Yuchi language, it's their own fucking thing, their own shit. Its structure and etymology bear proof of its having co-evolved with the green corn right, which is supposed to mean something to somebody. Today is the edge of extinction with only a couple of elderly speakers fluent in the Yuchian language remaining. So people do still speak Yuchian, and if there is a Yuchi tribe, they should know more than what we see here. I think Yamakral just fucking twisted me up. I wonder if that motherfucker wrote it like some conservative just trying to change history, pretend like they never fucking existed. What? The Yamakral? Nah, they're like the Ponca and the Crane. They never existed. So they're mysterious indigenous people. All myths aside, okay? Everybody just put your myths aside. The Tsoya were one of the mound building peoples in the southeast, which is the Yuchi, the Tsoya. We're going back and forth, right? Contemporary culture, the great Mayan culture. So now they're fucking Mayans. They're part of Dragon Canoe. Part of the heart of extensive trade network and frequent contact with the old world, despite firmly held beliefs that claim current area discover. America has been a melting pot of ideas, culture, and genes since long before the Columbian era, well into the Neolithic times, as the intercontinental maritime archaic culture so clearly demonstrate. Children of the sun, a people of significance. It is not likely to refer to a faraway aspect theorizes Yuchi etymology. Indian tribes are frequently known by names other than what they call themselves: Sioux, Navajo, Delaware Creek, the Winnebago, the people of the Stinking Creek. The Yuchi apparently were an exception, being known by a self-appellation, as staunchly proud as they were. It's not all surprising. Most accessible information on the Yuchi is the tribes that slumber. Chicago means onion place. So actually there's a lot of good information about the Yuchi on here. I wish we found out, let's see, more about like the Green River Yuchi. They say they were first visited at Tanasqui by the Hernando de Soto-led expedition in 1540, the Juan Pardo expedition in 1567. Both these expeditions also fought battles within the Yuchi, are said to be powerful tribes that raided the coastal colonies of South Carolina, Virginia, and Florida, and were feared by the neighboring tribes. By the early 18th century, the Yuchi were greatly diminished by either war or disease. They lived as the immediate neighbors to Melungeons, likely colonists brought from Spain by Juan Pardo in the late 1560s, fleeing the Inquisitions, and so were much more intimately exposed to European diseases. Their decimation by disease. But I like this. The Melungeons, they thought that maybe the Yuchi are the Melungeons, but they're like neighbors, you know. This is wild. When the battle was all but lost, the Yuchi, not killed in the battle, gathered their families and committed mass suicide in the communal house rather than being taken captive. Damn, that's some proud motherfuckers. So the Yuchi is a bunch of bougies, but not really. Not really. We got a Yuchi, all the bougies. There was numerous Yuchi at one point. De Soto and Juan Pardo. Yuchi, also spelled Yuchi, and Yuchi are people of a Native American tribe who traditionally lived in the eastern Tennessee River Valley in Tennessee in the 16th century. During the 17th century, they moved south to Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. Some went to Florida. The Seminole tribe, right? There's the absentee Shawnee, which is Kentucky. That's pretty fucking sweet. The Yuchi. They keep on. They're Shawnee. They're Muskogee Creek. They're their own fucking people, motherfuckers. They're their own fucking people. Yuchi is commonly interpreted to mean over there, sit/live, or situated yonder. Their autonym, the name for themselves, is Yaha, or Yaha, meaning children of the sun. The Shawnee call them Tahokali, and the Cherokee call them Ani Yuchi. So Ani Yuchi, right? Tahokali, Tasoyaha, Koyaha. Children of the fucking sun. The origin of the Yuchi is a mystery. The Yuchi language does not resemble any other Native American language. 1541, the tribe was documented by the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto as a powerful tribe living in what is now central Tennessee. They were recorded at that time as Yuchi. European colonial records from the 17th century note the Yuchi. Both historical and archaeological evidence exists documenting several Yuchi towns in the 18th century. Among these were Chestowee in southeastern Tennessee in 1714, instigated by two fur traders from South Carolina. The Cherokee attacked and destroyed the Chestowee. Yuchi town. Archaeological site of the town designated a National Historical Landmark. It's within the boundaries of present-day Fort Benning, Georgia. They said that the Yuchi were more orderly and industrious than other tribes of the Creek Confederacy. However, the Yuchi began to move on some into Florida, and during the Creek War of 1814, many joined the Red Sticks Party. Yuchi town decayed, and the tribe became one of the poorest of the Creek communities, at the same time gaining a bad reputation. During the 18th century, the Yuchi consistently allied with the British, with whom they traded deer hides and Indian slaves. Jesus Christ. And then they plummeted. because of disease and the murders. Yuchi's been trying to gain federal recognition. Can do it. Then they did. Language isolate, not known to be related to any other. Yeah, it's a language isolate. The Yuchi people speak a language isolate. They're the children of the sun, the original fucking people. And this is a major. They were on the Green River. So the Yuchi could have been right around the Rough Lake, right here in Breckinridge County. Shawnee, the Cherokee. We know there were Shawnee. They killed several settlers. The Shawnee did. So we definitely know Shawnee was around. The Cherokee has a tribe there. The Yuchi, there was archaic natives who had dogs in marriage. And clay floors, burnt clay floors. So there was a permanent village. They had rituals. They only lived to be 18 and a half years old. This is 5,000 years ago. So, cut them some slack. They've been here for a long ass time. And the archaeological site we just could find 3,000 to 2,000 years ago. What we can't find is where they went. We only see that there was a civilization. We can assume that all the people was always here. So maybe let's assume that it was one fucking tribe. Just the American, just the United States. Oh shit, what do you call this? Turtle Island. So the original turtle people. Who are the original turtle people? And when we find out who the original turtle people is, maybe instead of saying that, there is like several different civilizations here, maybe it was one fucking civilization. Maybe the Shawnee just went and built mounds all over the fucking place. One fucking tribe. The turtle tribe. That's possible. And instead of, try to distinguish and make all these different things, maybe they lived in one area for a long time, picked up and moved it to another area. Maybe they weren't getting fucking extinguished and exterminated until the fucking white people started coming here with their bloodshed. Because once they get here, then everybody gets all fucking bloody and crazy. The Yuchi language is a linguistic isolate, which is a big thing, okay? I said language, but it's a language and a linguistic isolate because it's not related to any other of the languages. So they were, it's not fucking Seminole, it's not fucking Creek, it's Yuchi language. The Yuchi speak the Yuchi language. And in 2000, the estimated number of fluent Yuchi speakers was 15, but this number dwindled to 7 by 2006. According to a 2011 documentary on the Yuchi language, the number of first language speakers has declined to 5. So the Yuchi language is on the fucking ropes. There's only 5 individuals left, which isn't funny. It's terrifying. Young people of the Yuchi have learned the language in recent years, are continuing to do so. Yuchi language classes are being taught in Sapulpa, Oklahoma, an effort led by Richard Grounds in the Yuchi Language Project. As of 2011, the Administration for Native Americans awarded the Yuchi tribe a grant for the years 2011-2014 in the effort to provide after-school programs for the youth to better proficiency in their native language. Yuchi people and language are featured in a chapter Mark Abley Spoken Here Travels Among Threatened Languages, a book on endangered languages. The Yuchi people. Red Sticks is the English language term for a traditionalist faction of Muscogee Creek people in the American Southeast. In the early 19th century, they led a resistance movement to European American encroachment and assimilation. The tensions culminated in the outbreak of the Creek War. And maybe the Yuchi was around or something. And you have Kentucky counties. You have Jefferson, Bullitt, Hardin, LaRue, Hart, Greene, Taylor, Marion, Adair. Lots of different counties. I guess that's the end. That is the end, my friend. No, wait. Here's this document here is actually we get to see the Native Americans in Kentucky, written by Kenneth Barnett Tankersley, PhD, Department of Anthropology, University of Cincinnati. Fucking fascinating shit, I'm telling you. Because he's from, University of Cincinnati, and so he wrote this fucking piece. And this piece is one that actually points out how many more Native Americans were in Kentucky than what we've been told. So let's check this out. It says here, contrary to popular myths, American Indians have lived in Kentucky since time immemorial. When Kentucky was declared the 15th state on June 1st, 1792, more than 20 tribes, including the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Chippewa, Delaware, Eel River, Haudenosaunee, Kaskaskia, Kickapoo, Miami, Ottawa, Piankishaw, Potawatomi, Shawnee, Wea, Wyandotte held legal claims to the land. I guess I want to see the Wea and the Wyandotte in the Eel River and the Kaskaskia. I want to learn about those right now. So that might be my second thing. But the Wea, and then you have the Wyandotte, Eel River, and a Kickapoo. And you know what? I should write the Kaskaskia down. The Kaskaskia is just the Native Americans around Kaskaskia, which I think was a fucking French settlement. So to call the Native Americans, it's like we named a fucking fort, and then we said, oh, and by the way, the Native Americans around that fort were the fort fucking Indians, you know, and so that's not really fair because they were their own people, they were their own fucking tribe, right, and their own customs and their own ways. So I think we do need to be more precise when it comes to the Native Americans. They are scrawled out. Either we have a million fucking Native Americans all over the place, or we had very few. Yeah, and either 80 to 90% died of disease, or they were all fucking killed, right? So we don't, we don't fucking know. Show me some videotape, right? I want to see some fucking videotape of this shit. Kentucky considered home to the Mingo, Yamacraw, and the Yuchi. So we know that there's a Yamacraw, Kentucky, right, in McCreary County. There's they come from Savannah, Georgia. They had that fucking leader that sold the land and then moved away. The Yuchi, that's a big ass fucking tribe that lived on the Green River. As far north as the Green River. They lived in the caves in Appalachia. They were some badass motherfuckers. They speak a linguistic isolate. They're a linguistic isolate. The Yuchi speak the Yuchi language. The Yamacraw, I'm not sure what they speak. The Mingo were the badass motherfuckers that broke off from the Mohawk. The Mohawk is the biggest badass motherfucking Iroquois. Like, vicious, bad, like not good in a way, I guess, because they fought to the death, like they fought to the fucking death, like they're like, fuck this shit. The Yuchi, like they killed themselves, right? They pulled a Jonestown, fucking Jim Jones, but they didn't have anybody drink the fucking Kool-Aid, and they wasn't doing, MK Ultra fucking mind control type shit with the speakers and the fucking with the control mechanisms and shit, the fucking Hitler control mechanisms. So, Kentucky is considered home to the Mingo and Yamacraw Yuchi. So this is where I found out that, it's since time immemorial, there's always been Native Americans here. Guarded secrets, mountain cabins, farms, deep grottos inside caves, remote rock shelters beyond. They concealed their identity in order to survive. It did not stop them from representing their home state in every American war, even when they lacked citizenship and human recognition. So that's one part where we mentioned the fucking, and then the Yamansi. So we don't even, not Yamacraw, it's now the Yamansi. And that's it. Those are the only two. So, Yamacraw and the Yuchi. So, I'm going to check out some fucking Wyandotte, Wea, Eel River, Kickapoo, Kaskaskia, Mingo, and Mohawks. Peace.